Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo. Hey, hey, hey.
I've always wanted to keep that part of our tradition alive, especially since it's been in my family. My great grandfather, Sam Huff, was a great alligator wrestler. My dad was a great alligator wrestler. Or my dad's mentor, Thomas Storm, was one of the best alligator wrestlers, and he got taught from him. And so I've seen and been around alligator wrestling my whole life. It's always been a dream of mine to walk in the footsteps of my elders. And so I finally got the opportunity to go in and get my feet wet.
The alligator, culturally to the Seminole people, is not only did they used to bring a lot of wealth to the tribe back in the early 1900s, but even before then, when we were pushed down into the Everglades, that was basically our food. That was the only thing that was available to us. We even used to use the back of the alligator, the scoots, as a way of armor during some of our Seminole wars, and then they even used the jaw as kind of like a war club. However, when we started getting into trading with outside people, we still had that fear of being attacked or fear of somebody coming to our camp. So we would always go for wherever the alligators were. We even made the alligator eggs. Some of them said they even used to make medicine out of the alligator eggs. So they would tell us that if we were to be around alligator, we have to have permission. So at that point, we used to have the Halapata, the clan, give us permission to do that. But since the Seminole Wars, a lot of them had died out. So then we have to go to the Snake Clan or Chinte Clan for permission. That's the second in line. So the reason why we do that back then was so we wouldn't get bit or we won't get sick. Now that still goes to even to this day.
Alligator wrestling is not exactly what people think. It's not wrestling a gator and it's not hurting the animal. It's preservation through teaching. We handle these animals with a lot of care, and what we do is we use them as a teaching tool so that way when visitors come to South Florida, they understand more about how these animals hunt, how they survive, and how they protect themselves.
When I've done alligator wrestling, they know everything about it. They can sense, if you're scared, especially when you're on top of it, because it's basically 80% muscle. So once it knows something's not right with them or not right with you, they can tell right off the bat, and they know when you're weak on a left side or strong on the right side, or you're weak on the right side and strong on the left side. They know which part to go for. If you're predictable, they can tell. If you do the same move, they know what the move is.
I've gotten bitten 3 times, but the one that really made me think was one that I didn't get bit. I was in the pit with Lunge, and I had just done like a little show with him, and he has this really little spot, like real small little pond that he would just curl himself in. And it was scary because people would see that little pond, so you wouldn't think that anything was in there. It looks real shallow, but he digs himself a hole, and he's all 13, 14 feet of him would lay in there and just wait. And then so of course I would go in there and I'd see him and nobody else would see him because the water's murky, and I'd touch his nose and then he'd explode out and water would go everywhere, and it looked amazing. But I got so cocky and so sure of myself that I forgot how dangerous of an animal he was. And so we had got finished with the show. I was tired because he's such a big gator, and he was tired, so he laid his nose on the bank out of the water, and I had a lapse in judgment, and I went to wash my hands close to where he was, and I went and leaned over, and as soon as I leaned over, he exploded for my head, and I jumped back and he slammed right in front of my face. And my dad saw it, my cousin saw it, everybody saw it, and everybody was so upset at me because I had forgotten who this gator was. And if he would have gotten a hold of me, I could have either perished or been seriously harmed, and what would have been even worse is that he would have probably died because they probably would have killed him because he's the gator. that's what gators do. It would have been my fault. And this gator is such a special gator that me being careless would have ended his life. And that really made me step back and think, wow, you really have to be vigilant and pay attention to what you're doing and have respect for these animals. Because I was young and I thought, oh, I could handle any gator. But it's not about handling the gator, it's about respecting what the gator is, how the gator acts, and what the gator provides for our people and what the gator has provided for our ancestors.